All right, welcome at ON-DeFi and welcome back. It's been a while since I did an interview or I did a video, and today we have backed Reactive Liquidity from also a Curve grants participant. And I want to again put on the attention before we start that if you have a great idea to how to improve Curve DAO or how to add more liquidity to the system, to apply for a grant at Curve. We give grants ranging from 10K to 50K to 100K, depending on what value you add. And then as a decentralized organization, we want to support projects that add value to Curve and add value to the overall decentralized financial ecosystem. Today in our interview, we have Sam from Backed, and he's going to explain us everything what Backed is and what reactive liquidity exactly is. So let's get started, and let's invite Sam to the channel. Here we go. Hi Sam, how are you doing, man?
Hey, doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so I chatted with Sam for a while already, but who are you and what are you doing and what is your role in the Curve ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started a protocol. I co-founded a protocol called Backed. The Backed protocol, it's backed.fund, not .finance. We started that last year in October, and have been really conceptualizing it in the beginning and then building ever since. And I mean, we're just now getting ready to launch we launched on testnet now and are preparing for mainnet launch. And in the beginning, when we sort of came up with the idea and started developing, we realized there are some costs to cover, and it would be great to see if we can get any support from the ecosystem. And we came across the Curve grants, and we applied, and we're very grateful that we received a Curve ecosystem grant.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, and we're like your proposals. We go much more in depth into it, but maybe before we start, Sam, what did you do before you entered crypto? What were you busy with?
So I did a master's in computer science, and for my master thesis, my supervisor suggested I should look at Ethereum mining pools. This was like in 2017, I think. And back then I was really not familiar with them at all. I barely knew Ethereum. Had never done any development work in that space. And so I did my master thesis on like mining pools and mining pool reward schemes, and then ended up doing a PhD after that at the university, and where the focus was initially more on the lower level like mining side, and then gradually evolved to become more centered around actual DeFi protocol design. And one of the things I looked at as part of my research was the liquidation mechanism across DeFi protocols, like how borrowing and lending protocols use liquidations to protect themselves against volatility, and that's how a colleague of mine, when we did this sort of research project together, we came up with this idea of Backed, which was essentially this solving this problem of, well, what if you don't want to have a lot of collateral just sitting around, but you want to use it somewhere else? But at the same time, then you're exposed to higher liquidation risk. So there must be a way to sort of bridge the gap, and that's where we went from there. So I guess gradually transitioned more and more into DeFi throughout my academic career, which is coming to an end, and now in the DeFi space.
Nice, that's amazing. More like a hands-on approach, towards decentralized finance, and you saw a problem in your academic research, and you dive deeper, and then now you have a very pragmatic solution, I must say. And you also, I see you also work with Aave and with Curve and with Divergence, right? And basically, I think it's a very a cool thing that like when you start a project, you really see, okay, what ecosystems and what DAO building blocks can my project probably work with, and how can I collaborate, and can I get some recognition or some small, some funding from these protocols to get a flying start, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we sort of started out, it was really, okay, who is this protocol going to be useful for, and what are we going to sort of plug in with? And it was we identified very early on, we will be using Curve, and we'll direct a lot of liquidity to Curve, and we'll also use Compound in Aave. So we thought it would be great if we can, get some of these protocols, get them on board, or get them maybe if they have grants, or also get their feedback on what we're building. So
yeah, that's amazing. So everybody should that wants to add some value to Curve, they should like apply for a grant, and also see how they can become part of the ecosystem. And you also, like when you were working on the grant, you also became a core contributor to the code base, I saw in GitHub as well.
Yeah, so when we applied for the grant, we had a call with Michael and Ben from Curve, and we started talking about sort of backed and everything. And afterwards, they asked if we're ever interested in helping on the dev side for Curve as well, and I was very, very keen on doing that, and yeah, enjoyed it a lot. I mean, still enjoying it. It's great. I mean, the team is superb. It's an amazing product, and it's really fun solving problems that they encounter. I was definitely involved sort of a lot on the testing side as well, but yeah, really enjoyed the work with Curve. I think it's an amazing community. And I always feel like it's it's probably the DeFi protocol, to me at least, that since DeFi summer, when it all sort of really went wild, seeing how protocols have evolved. I mean, with Curve, everything just seems to work. I mean, there's so many moving components, and it definitely takes quite a bit, I think, to get your head wrapped around. It's not something you explain within a minute so that everyone gets it. There are quite a few things, and yeah, it's fascinating to see all these things, all these components move and work. And yeah, so it's been an incredible journey. Very fortunate to have been able to do a small part, contribute a small part there.
That is really amazing, and I really see that like in the future, more and more like real proper protocols that are in this progressive route of like decentralization more and more, where you want to have like a grants council. Like I'm part of grants council, and a lot of people are like, money is like spreading out to the ecosystem, and people that get a grant also help with the core protocol, and then the core protocol helps out the other building blocks. So it's like an interconnected web that just keeps on growing and keeps on getting more and more interconnected with each other. And I think that's really, really cool to see. And I think that is a perfect, a perfect example of how we want to see an ecosystem evolve, where an ecosystem gives basically some incentives to another building block, and that other building block gives back to the protocol as well. That's really amazing. That's really, really cool. All right, so let's now dive deeper into what backed is, because I think for a lot of people it might be a little bit like unclear what is backed. We're talking about like reactive liquidity. What does that mean, and what does backed do? You already mentioned a little bit, but maybe explain it a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, of course. So I guess the problem that we're trying to solve in the beginning, to put into context, is that in DeFi, let's say you want to borrow crypto on Compound or Aave, you have to over collateralize your loan, right? And even though DeFi brands itself as being very capital efficient, it's actually not very collateral efficient. So when you take a big loan, you have to over collateralize it. So that essentially there's a lot of collateral just ends up sitting there, and it's not being used for anything. And of course, you have a lot of great earning opportunities in DeFi by allocating these funds elsewhere. So you have a very high opportunity cost. But at the same time, borrowers don't want to necessarily decrease, their collateral too much, because then they're exposed to higher liquidation risk. So we wanted to create a protocol, which is essentially backed, that solve this problem by allowing users to reduce their collateral on a borrowing or lending protocol, and deposit that reduced amount into Backed, and then Backed will allocate it across various, yield farming opportunities, like a traditional yield farm. And the users, the liquidity provider on Backed, can register his or her Backed deposits as backup collateral for their original loan. So what that means is, and this is where reactive liquidity comes in, that you can use your Backed deposits and say, hey, when my loan on Compounder Aave becomes close to, getting liquidated, I want my funds to be shifted over from Backed to Compounder Aave and top up my loan, my collateral position, so that my liquidation risk is no longer present. And this allows the user to, benefit from Backed yields that are generated by allocating, for instance, funds to Curve, and at the same time not be exposed to higher liquidation risk. And this is all done through off-chain monitoring. We have they're like Backed keepers, essentially the opposite to liquidators in a way. Liquidators, they call out positions that can be liquidated, and on Backed you have Backed keepers that call out positions where, for instance, that can be topped up, and then funds will be shifted over automatically. So it's all sort of done on a protocol level, and that's really what Backed is about. It's depositing funds that you can yield farm with, and at the same time you can use these funds for other things as well. And one of these things is one of these avenues of what you could use these funds for are collateral top-ups. It's collateral top-ups, and that's what we've built.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, and you gave me before to go. I think like a very simple example is what you gave me is like like if you have some liquidity at Convex or at Curve, or like it's mostly already generating yield in that position, and then you might also have a open like loan at Aave, and then at what you can do is say, okay, that open loan at Aave, I have a C ratio of maybe just like 150%, 140%, and maybe if it goes below the liquidation ratio, you just have like you connect it via Backed, so you can actually go to sleep at night without worrying that you have to stand up 4 o'clock in the morning to if there's another Black Thursday event or something like that to push through like transactions to save your position. Basically, that is then automated via Backed, because Backed automates this liquidation top up in case of an emergency, like decline in any price or in any situation, right?
Exactly, and it's really up to the user to sort of specify when a position should be topped up. So you can really create this sort of like if-then scenario, right? If my position on Aave, falls below, let's say, 120% collateralization, I would like to be, topped up by X amount of my Backed funds. And if that scenario kicks in, then funds will be shifted over. A small fee will be paid on the sort of collateral shift, but that fee is negligible compared to what you would be paying if you get liquidated.
Yes.
And it's charged on a smaller amount, but that's really it's up to the user to define these parameters. And it's like you said, it's that was also what we sort of seeked out in the beginning. Like we wanted to, it's very tough going. It's almost impossible, beating a liquidation bot manually. You're not going to sit in front of your browser and look at your Aave position and be like, okay, well, it looks like it's close to being, under collateralized. Let me just quickly top this up with MetaMask. You're done. I mean, like over 70% of positions that become liquidable within the first block that they are eligible for liquidation, they will get liquidated, and the rest we're almost at 100% after 2 blocks. So it's extremely difficult to go against these liquidation bots. So you need to sort of beat them to it before, when you're not at risk of liquidation yet. And this is where Backed can be the perfect tool for it.
Yeah, I really like that. And like this is again a building block that starts with just indeed liquidation protection. But you also told me that, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can add there. We could also say, but correct me if I'm wrong, like I'm actually a big fan of, for example, something like DeFi Saver that works a little bit in a different way, but you can also have like automated like margin positions as well, right? So when I say, for example, like, yeah, like, I mean, you could also say if my ratio goes to 250%, I might want to take some, I might want to sell some of my position and leverage it up to a certain percentage, and then just have my curve position that if the ratio drops, to not sell my ETH, but to just sell some of my curve collateral to basically buy more collateral to fill up the position as well. So there's a lot of like different blocks, I think, that we can use.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit different in that regard, like to DeFi Saver, because so DeFi Saver is more of like an active sort of management tool in terms of what they do. Because, like you said, they don't just sort of increase collateral. So we are thinking about like adding that sort of functionality in the future, but it's definitely you can apply the concept of what Backed is doing, not just to collateral top-ups. So you can think about it's really this idea of having funds in a protocol, like that generate yield, and you can use your LP tokens, so your tokenized deposits, for other things, whether it's registering, or whether using them as backup collateral on some over-collateralized protocol, whether it's Aave or Compound or maybe potentially Maker vaults. But also you could do things like down the road, let's say you have limit orders on an AMM where you would like to earn yield until your order is actually executed, right? You could also do this. It's really, you can add different sort of actions to Backed for what these funds should be able to be used for. And so currently we're launching with collateral top-ups because we identified that as being like a big sort of problem, and there's a strong use case for it. But we want to extend this to a range of other we want to extend this to a range of other protocols and problems, really, right? That's the plan where we want to take this.
Yes, yeah, that sounds amazing. And I mean, like as you said, like there's a small fee for your liquidation protection, which as also a user of Curve or Convex and Aave, I would it's hard sometimes to keep track of all your positions, but as long as I know that some of my positions have some of these safety guards in place, I feel much more comfortable, and I would be happy to actually pay some yield for that, and that actually will again support the Backed protocol and actually generate real revenues for the protocol itself, that's very interesting indeed, to the different building blocks that we can use Backed for, because like we can use it for liquidation protection, so we sleep better at night. We can later on it will extend, but it's a decentralized protocol. So Backed is it's a decentralized protocol that you open source, right, Sam? And it's a decentralized organization where if I say I want to have this and this building block because I'm building a different structured product and I need different needs, and I make a proposal for that, then Backed can add that to their stack, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the vision, right? The vision is that we of course sort of building it right now, but yeah, the plan is to I think, like many DeFi protocols, get it to a state where we can set it free down the line, and have a community around it that will ensure the continuous development of the protocol. And exactly, there are a lot of things that can be added and extended, and that will hopefully be driven by the community.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you have a well-functioning Backed keeper bot network and a well-functioning ecosystem, so basically, if you have an efficient network of keeper bots, that's for me as any third-party company like Crashcoffin or another company or another protocol or another DAO that I'm working for, it would be for me interesting to work with that and to see what kind of structured products we can build together as a community. And Backed also has a token, because with any protocol, you need to bootstrap liquidity, right? You can have this liquidation stop, this network, but at the end of the day, it's all the protocol that gets the most liquidity will get eventually the most users and have the most likelihood of surviving, right? I was always looking at this, you can have an inflation rate of maybe 1,000%, but if the survival rate of the protocol is for sure 100%, then that is okay, right? So it's it's very interesting when I also look at your token economic model. It's basically we have Curve with an inflation schedule and a certain protocol and services they offer. Then we have Backed on top of that with also another building block and also its own incentives to use the protocol over time. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's quite interesting when you lay it out like this, because a lot of these DeFi protocols, you have like, one protocol is built on another one, wraps the other one, tokenizes some element of it, and you have these inflation schedules sort of, I think you refer to it once as, inflation stacking. I think that's quite appropriate. So with us, in terms of the tokenomics, so we're not too focused, or we're not essentially like, we're not tokenizing like, let's say, VE curve, like what Convex did, right? It's a very different approach. So it's not the same effect, I think, of like inflation stacking. I mean, the inflation schedule for the backed token, it'll be quite an aggressive sort of inflation over the first year, and then it'll temper off. It's rather similar to the Curve inflation model, actually. I mean, Curve definitely inspired a lot of the backed tokenomics elements. I mean, I wouldn't say it's definitely not like a sort of one-to-one clone by no means, but Curve is working great, and I think a lot of things that they designed have been, designed extremely well. So, of course, I think it's a no-brainer to be inspired by that as a new build protocol. And in terms of the backed inflation, I mean, backed token rewards will go mainly to the liquidity providers, as well as to back keepers. So back keepers and liquidity providers will be constantly incentivized by receiving back tokens, based on how much liquidity they provide and how many funds they in the beginning top up, and that's sort of the main, of course, idea. And we will, I mean, I should say we won't launch sort of everything when we launch on mainnet out of the box with everything,
I understand.
There. So we're doing this for several reasons. We're doing it in different phases. But I should also say, when we launch, once we really launch on mainnet, then early LPs will of course also be rewarded with inflation. I mean, it's not that even though there isn't a token yet, people will still receive a reward, I should say.
I think this is actually a great model, to be honest, right? So like I'm researching a lot of token economic models. We first had ICOs and all this other stuff, but actually what a model like Curve actually proved into the market, it basically provides people that are early on supporting the protocol, and it kind of makes it so that if you keep on supporting the protocol, it gives you more rewards, right? And of course, there's a share for the community. There's a community reserve. There's some, a team share. I will link to the exact token economics draft. It's still, of course, floating, and there's no backed token at all. So there's so don't watch out with that. But I think it's very interesting because it's like, Sam, you build a protocol with your team, and the best, like that there will be a protocol like backed is kind of inevitable. So I think it will happen at some point. It's just a question which protocol has the highest chance of survival rate, right? And that is the protocol you need to put your liquidity behind. So it's like you vote with your liquidity, and then you get part of the inflation of the protocol, and the protocol that actually survives will be the most profitable, but you don't know that in the beginning. So it's an interesting game theoretical concept.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, it's quite an exciting time.
Yeah, so I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's also really cool for all the all the listeners to know that when you guys go live, it's probably smart to to put in some liquidity, because then we're supporting the protocol, we're supporting the idea, the concept. We're like it's easier for the team to then bootstrap other pools, or to get accepted, or to that other like pools will probably vote you in if you have enough liquidity. So I think that's makes a lot of sense. All right. So actually, I've been told that you also have a small demo that you wanted to show, right? Like maybe it's cool for us to get some hands-on experience, because
Yeah, no, definitely. I have a little demo prepared. I can sort of show you what we've built over the past, I guess over the past months, really. A lot of time went into this. Again, I should say it's not the full protocol. I mean, this is now a version which has the core functionality, but we haven't put the, let's say, all the tokenomics components live yet. So you won't see claiming pages, staking pages. That's still not visible, but it's the core functionality, And so let me share my screen.
And while you're sharing screen, like, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because in that way, you attract the people that are here to actually really that need the service, and that are probably long-term users of the service, right? Because if you just put a 1,000% API on your product, you probably get all these people that are just flipping farms as a day job or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's that's definitely a point. We want to attract, of course, users that use the protocol. I mean, and of course, on the one side, you don't have to be a borrower to use Backed, right? Because you can also see it as a normal yield farm, and I don't care about borrowing. I just deposit my funds, and I will receive strategy yields, back token rewards, and fees that are paid by the people that pay for collateral top-ups or for whatever else. And so it's sort of like this, I get yield from a strategy and token rewards, but I also get these fees that the protocol generates. And because I get back tokens, I will also get fees that go to back token holders. So there's this, that could be, I guess, that is a reason to use Back, just being an LP. But of course, we want people to use it for backing up their loans, because that's, of course, a super exciting component of the protocol. That's what no other protocol really does in the same way we do it, and we're excited to see that live and see people use it. So yeah, hopefully we get a lot of people excited, and of course we're also in Discord. So if people have feedback or want to make suggestions, we can only encourage people to get involved. We're super open to everything. We want to build this community and get everything right.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's see the demo. I'm very excited. Here we go. And I think because yes, here we go.
Yeah. So this is Backed, and we'll publicly announce it. I think today that it's all going to be on testnet. And
yeah, this video will be out probably in a couple of days, so don't worry.
Oh yeah, cool. Then it should be accessible already, and yeah. So we have the Backed side, and we have Reactive Liquidity, what we brand ourselves, and here we have some info on what we do: avoid liquidation, earn yield, you get fees. And then we already can see the liquidity pools that we have. So here on this testnet version, we have a pool for DAI and for ETH. And below here we just sort of see the usual information and how to follow us. But yeah, let's dive into it. So again, on the top you see just pools. There's more to it. There will be claiming as well and other things. But right now we have pools, so we can click here and we have a DAI pool and an ETH pool, right? And these are essentially single asset pools where I can now deposit DAI or ETH. And then I can use my deposits to back up a position on an Aave or Compound. And it should be noted also that we launch with support for Aave and Compound loans, but this is extremely easy to extend. So the plan is, of course, to extend this to other protocols down the road. And yeah, so let's, for instance, deposit some DAI. So we can, we have 40,000 test DAI here. So let's say we want to deposit 25% or 50%. Let's approve this quickly. Just pulling up my MetaMask.
Yeah, so it's
approved. Okay. And then we can, deposit and stake it essentially. And once this transaction is ever confirmed. But yeah, now we can deposit it. Let me just, we'll deposit it. And hopefully we should see that we have more deposits than we currently have.
Yes.
And it should be worth noting. I mean, currently, yeah, we have on Tesla, the pools for DAI and ETH. Okay, yeah, so cool. So now we see, our deposits here in USD will actually add underlying as well. So there are quite a few changes we're going to make as well. See this in underlying as well. And yeah, I mean, currently we have pools for for ETH and DAI, but this can be added to other assets as well. There will be more assets, of course, down the road. So okay, we can either withdraw our funds now, right? Which we don't really necessarily want right now. So what we can do here, we have top up positions. So what we can do is, let's say, we have a loan on Aave, and on Aave, let me just on Aave, let's assume we have the same address that the loan is under. Then this will be the address we would like to sort of back up.
Yeah.
And then this is the threshold is essentially the health factor. So let's say when the health factor drops to 1.1, right? So at 1, if you drop below 1, you can get liquidated. So let's say 1.1, and let's say the single top-up amount we would like 4,000 DAI, and for the max top-up amount we'll have, let's say 16,000 DAI. And then we approve this, and we wait for the proof to confirm, and then we can create our position. And
amazing. I also think, like, on your Git book, in your developer documentation, it also goes also. You explain it there also very well with this illustration of the flow with the nice logo and stuff.
I can only direct people, of course, to the Git book. I think we try our best to really break things down in a very simple way on there. We'll also release proper developer docs to interact with the protocol. But yeah, anyone sort of wanting to get a better understanding of Bakkt, definitely check out the Git book. So yeah, now we can create our position here. We can see now, when the collateralization of our registered address. So it should be, I don't need to register my own address here. I can register whatever address to sort of provide my funds as backup collateral for. When the collateralization drops below 1.1, then it'll be topped up with 4,000 DAI, or $4,000 currently, and this will be reoccurring until your total funds of 16,000 DAI are used up. And so yeah, it's sort of like a last sanity check, and then we can confirm our position. And you won't see it, but MetaMask just prompted me to confirm it. And now once the position has been created, so we're essentially registering our backed LP tokens for the DAI pool to be used as backup collateral. So they're essentially staked, but they can be used for anything else apart for a top up if the conditions that we've specified here are actually met, right? So there's no way anyone else can withdraw these funds or anything. And of course we can delete the position here now that was just created anytime, and then we have our funds, our LP tokens back. But yeah, so we can see this, and we can see here our funds that are locked, our total deposits, and yeah, we could withdraw some amount now if we want, and we can go back to the pool overview. And of course, with ETH, it's the sort of the same. I mean, you don't have to approve, but it's the same. And I guess the exciting thing here is, if we think about it, well, what benefit, for instance, if I'm a Curve user, right? Because we've got a Curve grant, like what's the benefit for Curve here? Well, if we would have a tri-Curve pool, then we could accept tri-Curve deposits, and you can specify, you could use your tri-Curve deposits, which even though tri-Curve is such a liquid asset, it's not used as collateral or not accepted as collateral on the main protocols. so the main lending protocols. So you could have it here, you could have a backed pool with Curve, and you could then register a position that you would like to be topped up on either Aave or Compound, for instance, and it would be topped up not in Curve, but in the underlying, in USDT, USDC, and DAI, because they do accept all those assets as collateral. So, you could, that's another way of how to think about it. There's this increased utility of what you can do with your LP tokens. So it doesn't have to be just DAI and ETH. This can be other LP tokens as well, and that's really the direction we want to steer this. But yeah, that's
really cool. If we go back again to the DAI position,
of course,
and then to the top up, so there exactly like so what we see here is just like you have a DAI that you want to, like in a normal way, like if you have a lot of borrow positions open, which at some point I also had that, like, but it's a bit risky. So sometimes I'm working most of the time now on some stuff, so that's a bit hard. But if, let's say, you're a full-time DeFi degen, or you're doing a lot of open positions, then you need to always have some dry powder at the side to be sure to use that when something goes wrong, or at the liquidity. In this case, you can put your liquidity to work, reactive liquidity. So it basically reacts when something happens, and it jumps into the place where you need it the most, basically, right? And basically, the threshold 1.1 is basically 110% then, or what?
Yeah, it's essentially the numeric representation of how over collateralized you are. It's taking into account all the sort of collateralization factors, collateral factors of every different asset. Because on Aave and Compound, like, even if you take like multiple loans in different assets, right, underneath the hood, you only have one health factor, right? It sort of computes your, taking all these different assets and amounts into account, it'll compute one health factor for you. And so we're not really, it's not the traditional, it's not as perhaps what users who are not familiar with this may think, where, if I borrow DAI and USDC on Aave, which one is this going to be repaying? Is this going to repay my DAI or USDC? This isn't really how it works underneath the hood. It's more like, we're increasing the overall position. But like as you said, you're completely right. It's now we have this sort of position registered for, if the scenario kicks in where on Aave the position of this address falls below 1.1, it can be topped up with 4,000 DAI, and this will decrease to 12,000 DAI. And we're also going to launch like a testnet keeper, so you can actually simulate all this in testnet as well. But it's currently the funds now, they will be sitting, in a yield farming strategy. So they would be sitting on Curve. And only until this condition is actually met, they will be pulled out of Curve and shifted over into Aave.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think we're in a stage of DeFi where, we are all using this stuff, right? And I'm using it, but it's going very fast. But I think at some point, the people that are now using these kind of products will basically build products for other people, I think, a lot of times. So basically, I think other protocols will again build on top of Backed and Curve and Rapid. And
definitely. I mean, when we build Backed, right? I mean, we also design in a way that hopefully it should be extremely easy to build on top of it, right? If, for instance, I don't know, also like InstaDApp, for instance, would like to build on Backed, it should be extremely easy. Which, I mean, I think that's one of the best features of DeFi, right? Is this composability. It's on the one side, it has great potential of building very efficient, capital efficient sort of applications, even though the word capital efficient has been sort of overused. But yeah, it's I think that is the main selling point. Of course, standing on the other side against that is this risk, this composability risk that applications are faced with, especially like when you consider the risks that sort of are inherent to the different economic mechanisms that are employed by these protocols, and it's just extremely difficult to model or understand them. And I think it's still extremely early for DeFi. I think it's come a long way. I think protocols like Curve are the best example of, like, when people ask me what has changed since 2017-18, it's, people are building products now. You have protocols like Curve, Uniswap that have billions in trading volume every day, and people use them, right? I mean, Curve, people use them. People hold tokens that receive cash flows. Again, I mean, on Backed, we were also inspired by that. I mean, the Backed token holders will receive protocol fees. So, the more actions are going to be added to Backed over time, hopefully the more fees are going to be generated, and they will go to the Backed token holders in part. So, this is I'm excited for this.
Very, very excited, and I think this, as you said, we're just getting started with this, and I think it's like I'm building also some stuff in centralized financial systems.
Yeah.
And I think this is just the beginning, because like in centralized financial systems, if you want to build a structured product, you need to, basically have a lot of coffees or beers or, with somebody, and then and then he's going to talk to you, and you have an Excel sheets, and you have like weird discussions with people not really understanding what programming is. And then it goes to somebody who does understand what programming is, and then you get something. But, a lot of these things, what we see here now, are not really possible in traditional finance, of like these layered approaches of reactive. Well, I guess it's possible, but it's like this, these Goldman Sachs high-end products potentially. But I mean, I never came in contact with that. I'm not a full-time financial person, but I would love to see how like some quants or other people from maybe a more traditional background, how they would use something like this. And I think they don't really understand that these products are here and you can use them. So let's hope we reach some of these people, and I would love to see their feedback on products like Backed and Curve, and this reactive and composable stacking of liquidity and stacking of inflation. Although it's super interesting. We're basically paying you like, if this will, I think it will. So if it will survive, it will survive. So if we move forward with this, then you're very highly incentivized to build financial products now on Backed, on Curve, and then wrap it and package it, and and it's just the system. It's the protocols themselves are like, I see them a little almost as like living organisms when we release them with their schedules of inflation.
Yeah, they are.
So that's really amazing. So I really like this, and I think So when we release this interview, this testnet version will also be live, or is this going to be on mainnet? It's going to be on testnet.
It will still be testnet, and then mainnet will probably also very likely to sort of launch like everything on mainnet quite soon. But next month is the plan. But with security, probably like a bit of a beta mode with which is capped, and this is not when sort of the liquidity mining tokenomics side will really kick in yet. I mean, that period is really just to make sure everything works also on mainnet. But then the plan is in October to sort of launch all out with all the components. And so I can only encourage everyone who's watching this to try it out, give us feedback, ask difficult questions. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to do.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds really cool. So you probably follow you guys on Twitter and on different Discord channels to be able to front run this opportunity and raise in your liquidity to gain the most out of these opportunities. And I think it's yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I will for sure, also check it out when it goes live, and I will also check out testnet because it's always, interesting to see what's going to happen. As far as I understand, you're now in a security audit, right? By the insurance.
Chain security, yeah, yep. So that's still sort of that's still undergoing, underway. So that should hopefully be completed. By the time we launch on mainnet properly. But yeah, that has also been really exciting, working with them.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we have a security audit, and I think the most listeners understand, like, a security audit's nice, but like a security audit is kind of a stamp of, like, you're taking security seriously. So what is the risk that can happen with providing my liquidity to the pool? Because basically, when I provide it to a pool, it also can be that it goes to, of course, it's always staying in my wallet, but there's some risks involved, I think.
Yeah, of course, it's the risks that probably all DeFi protocols that integrate other protocols are faced with. This I think the typical composability risk of, let's say you put DAI into the DAI pool unbacked. Let's say, depending on the strategy, if the strategy is, deposit these funds into the Curve pool and, then deposit it into the LP into Convex, there's of course this risk, what if the protocol that sort of holds the underlying, like, what if they get exploited? What if there's an economic exploit and there's the typical Curve imbalance attack where you withdraw one asset, but it's imbalanced because of a flash loan manipulation. So you burn LP tokens. So there's always this risk of, okay, what does the strategy do with the funds? And what's the risk of those protocols that get the funds losing them? Or it being very easy to actually take out the funds, like exploit them. And of course, we're doing everything we can to, ensure the highest standard of security, right? I mean, we want to develop strategies that are robust and that don't expose users to high risks. I mean, especially in the beginning, the strategies should be, very straightforward and easy to also audit by the users. But yeah, I mean, if you, for instance, allocate funds to, if Curve, for example, if Curve, like a Curve pool, and you have the compound pool, where the underlying gets deposited to compound. If compound has some exploit in their compound pool, in their DAI pool, then the Curve pool would be affected as well. So it's this composability risk that exists everywhere, really. There's definitely no way to say there is no risk. I think that's also not what we are trying to do by any means. We definitely wanted the audit for, especially the core logic. That's what the audit is for. The top ups, the collateral top ups, the way we've designed our liquidity pools. There are quite a few moving components. So the feedback we've been getting so far has been extremely helpful. They've been, helping us for quite some time. And that's, I think, even though it is the stamp of, we've been audited, we don't want to, send a false sense of security by saying, hey, everyone, look, we're well aware that a lot of protocols last year that have been hacked, they've all been audited, or not hacked, but exploited. So it was really for us as well, just to get another pair of good eyes on the code, right? Because you have a great team of developers, and if you build your own thing and you sort of you do nothing else for a long period of time but to think about your code and look at each other's code. Still, it helps getting someone else's opinion. So from the beginning we knew we wanted to do an audit. That's why we initially applied.
Well, I think it's great, but as you said, like, I think the most important thing, especially at this level, because the liquidity position is probably a little bit, bigger. Like, so it's always good to inspect the code. Like, something that I would like from a security perspective, it's like, how do you know which asset to sell? Let's say you have a Curve pool, or you have a other pools, because then you need to sell USDT, Ethereum, or BTC. But then it depends on how the balance is, right? So do you pick the one with the least slippage, or how does that?
So you mean for like when strategies integrate Curve?
Yeah. So when I use my tree curve or one of my pools as collateral for a AVE position, then when it gets on the water, then part of that tree curve position needs to be sold for a DAI, for example, or whatever, right?
Right. You could. I mean, yeah. So we're currently sort of actually implementing like a tree curve pool, but it would depend a bit, right? So you could withdraw. I mean, if you withdraw one tree curve right now from a curve pool, you'll receive like amounts of each. You'll receive an amount of DAI, USDC, USDC, and so in theory it could just be withdrawn, and then whatever you receive, you deposit as collateral on Aave, like all 3 tokens, because all 3 of them are. Okay. Yeah, because I mean there are different ways you can go about it using Curve, and you have to be careful a bit with these sort of single-sided withdrawals, because especially with heavy imbalances. So like if that's really where you have to make sure you get things right, like these sort of components.
Yeah, I guess that is a big challenge, and that's still also for the keeper bots, and also like an ongoing challenge to optimize that process, because it's just very complex. There's just not one right answer. You sometimes you can best withdraw 3 of them. Maybe the other time you can best withdraw ETH and then sell the ETH for DAI. I don't know, right? So there's a lot of different routes that you can take there, which you probably then again maybe want to stack with something like 1inch or another, like, or just Curve, like to swap it for another asset and then provide it to Aave. It's like almost like a whole smart order routing system that you need to.
Exactly. Yeah, it's sort of, in the beginning we try to keep things relatively simple, but of course it would be great, I think like having a tri-curve pool would be great, and I think down the road it would be great if we would have many LPs where you could just have a routing system where you specify, hey, I deposit this LP token and I would like to have my position be topped up in this token. And then Bakkt will handle the routing for you. I think that would be super cool. We did have that sort of initially in, but we had a lot of other features in as well for like when we want to launch. And it was Daniel, who's was also building this. We were sort of talking about it, and we were like, well, it never ends, right? I think we agreed on let's launch with a robust version with a minimal functionality, really, which I think we've already exceeded. But down the road, add the next layer. And we do have a lot of visions for like the future for like a version 2, extending it beyond collateral top-ups, having vaults that don't just have a single strategy, but multiple strategies, having LP tokens where you can specify what the top-up asset should be. And so that I think is super exciting, but it's a roadmap, and we have to do our homework. We have to make sure we get things right now in the beginning, sort of setting the foundation and that everything works properly. And then we'll see where we go. And of course, it's something that's not sort of decided, by the team, or currently, of course, we are making decisions, but we want this to be community driven. We want people to, talk to us about it, get their feedback, and, we'll have forums for, grasping the sense of like what grasping the sentiment, like, what people want. Do they want or support for Curve LP tokens and be able to, top up some other underlying asset, or do they actually want some other action apart from collateral top up that should be implemented next? And so there's a lot you can sort of take this, and it's in the end, of course, also a function of time a bit. How much you can actually do. So but no,
I fully understand, Sam, and I like to ask these difficult questions. But the thing is that just goes to show there is a lot of different opportunities out there for Bakkt to innovate and to build a lot of like improvements on it. But what we have already right now just using a tree curve or anything as a liquidity safety net, it's very, very valuable for the ecosystem. And I think we're just getting started. So like everybody that has open positions on Aave or Compound, or in the future also potentially other pools, then you can use Backed as a secure backup for your dry powder assets that normally would not do anything. But in Backed, you also can actually earn yield with that and actually make your liquidity reactive, right? So make your yield reactive to certain circumstances in your portfolio. And I think it's amazing. Like I never saw that before. Well, it's a new innovation that DeFi brings, I think, to the table.
Hearing you say that, I mean, it's great. We're super excited. Thanks. I mean, that's we think there's definitely a big value add to the sort of ecosystem. I mean, we do see the protocol as being a major component in it, and it's a matter of integrating it with a lot of other protocols and adding to this now over the coming months. But yeah, it's exciting, and it's crazy to think that it started all last November with the Curve ecosystem brand. It's really it's been quite the ride, even though we haven't launched yet, and we're looking forward to everything that's ahead.
It's amazing, man. Well, welcome to DeFi, and I hope more and more people will join this amazing ecosystem. And reactive liquidity is here. We can use it very, very soon. And thank you, Sam, for all your amazing insights and your amazing building skills and your amazing skills that you bring to the space as well. Is there anything you want to add or you want to say before we wrap it up here?
I mean, I would, of course, I definitely want to thank sort of the Curve DAO again for the DAO, the Grants Council as well, for supporting us in the beginning. Also, as I mentioned already a few times during the interview, for anyone who would like to get involved, I mean, please do so. Check out Backed, join us on Discord. I mean, that's really where the community discussions are happening, and there's a lot to be done. Whether it's we have people doing translating work already, or on the strategist side, so there's a lot of really room for getting involved, and of course down the road we do want to reward that as well, and just want to make sure we get decisions right early on. So yeah, hopefully everyone who would like to get involved, and I'm excited about everything that's to come. And thanks again for having me here.
Thank you, Sam, for coming on the show. It's been amazing, and I think what we're seeing here is like a really emerge of different building blocks, because the Curve community and the Backed community will be more closely working together, and also the Aave community will be working with Backed as well. So I mean, it's going to be a very interesting. It's going to be interesting ride to see all these community stacking, inflation stacking, yield stacking.
Yeah, it's really. Maybe I need to do more research projects. Sounds like a good title right there. Community stacking, inflation stacking, the risks of stacking. I think we'll see a lot of cool things over the coming year. I mean, just thinking back of sort of what has all happened over the past year in DeFi, I think it's just going to be fascinating to see where things go over the next year. And I think, of course, it is this composability element. Inflation stacking is really a good one, a term that you coined.
Sure.
So, I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of value in getting, like you said, Curve and Backed. I hope there will be a close relationship. It's of course great if you have community members from Curve to also get involved with Backed, get excited, because it's not this sort of one protocol takes it all, takes all the community. It's not that. It's not a religion where you're sort of set on community. So
a very reactive community that moves to the parts that we need to build out.
It moves to it's a reactive community. I mean, that's just fitting, right? It's a reactive community overall, sort of fragmented across various DeFi protocols that just reassembles on what's the most exciting, promising, has a lot of potential for protocols that they're passionate about. So hopefully people from Curve will get also involved, from Convex and Aave. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Definitely. And like, if I will put a lot of links in the show notes to the backed Gitbook documentation and to the backed website and to Sam's Twitter and everything, so you can follow everything that he's doing. And we have a collective goal of giving purpose to this new financial ecosystem. And I think by stacking these liquidities and stacking these communities, we will become an unstoppable force of good in the world, I hope. And to really, change something for the better, and to really build a more, at the end of the day, a more inclusive and open financial system. And these tools are maybe quite complex for not everybody might understand or use it. But I think in the long run, the products wrapped or works with these protocols will trickle down to the people that need it the most, and will eventually always go to the edges of the network. So we're a small community building some complex financial systems, but the power of this already flows to the edges of the network, and we will only expand more and more, and the edges will only be broader. So you don't have to be a master computer scientist to understand this in the future. Hopefully, anybody, maybe people in the Philippines or in Indonesia or in maybe some more emerging economies, will also start to use these kind of yielding protocols and building financial tools. You can already see that happening. So I'm very, very excited, and I'm very hopeful and very positive about the future of DeFi and the overall ecosystem as well. Thank you, Sam. It's been amazing, and anybody that's interested in also working with Curve, or also is interested in what kind of Curve grants are, you can also see that in the links below, and reach out to us, reach out to me, and reach out to Backed, reach out to Curve, and we are all a reactive community that's trying to change something for the good in the world, I hope. All right. Thank you, Sam, and see you very soon.
Thank you.